The billionaire's driver slammed the brakes so hard that the car shook. "Sir, look," the driver whispered. From the back seat, Ethan Walker lifted his head, annoyed. He was used to people stopping him for photos, for favors, for money. He expected another delay. But when his eyes followed the driver's pointing finger, his breath caught in his throat. Right there, beside a metal trash bin behind a fancy restaurant, a little black girl was crouched on the ground. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Her dress was torn at the side. One of her shoes was missing. Her small hands shook as she pulled out leftovers from the trash. Half-eaten bread, scraps of chicken, food mixed with dirt. She brushed nothing off. She didn't cry. She simply ate fast and quiet, like someone afraid the food might disappear. Ethan's chest tightened. He opened the car door without thinking. The sound made the girl freeze. Slowly she lifted her head. Her eyes met his. They were big, dark, and tired, too tired for a child. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, her voice small and shaky. "I'll go. I wasn't stealing. I was just..." She stopped talking. Her lips trembled. Ethan felt something crack inside him. "What's your name?" he asked softly, stepping closer. The girl hugged the trash bag to her chest as if it were treasure. "Please don't be mad," she whispered. My story always makes people angry." Tears burned Ethan's eyes before he even understood why. "What story?" he asked. The girl swallowed hard, opened her mouth to speak, and a loud shout echoed from the alley. "Hey! Get away from there!" The girl screamed, dropped the food, and ran. "Wait!" Ethan shouted. But she was already gone, disappearing into the dark streets. Ethan stood there, shaking, his heart pounding. For the first time in many years, the powerful billionaire felt completely helpless. Who was that little girl? And what kind of story could bring a man like him to tears? Before we dive deeper into this story, kindly hit the subscribe button and stay with us till the end. Share the city you're watching from in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels. 3 days earlier, life had felt very different. Ethan Walker was one of the richest men in America. His face was on magazines. His name was on tall buildings. People said he had everything: money, respect, power. But inside, Ethan felt empty. His days were always the same. Meetings, phone calls, numbers. He moved through life like a machine, never stopping long enough to feel anything real. He donated to charities, yes, but always through checks, never through his heart. That morning, he sat in his office, staring out at the city below. His assistant, Claire, stood nearby holding a tablet. "You're late for the luncheon," she said gently. "It's for the children's fund." Ethan sighed. "Another speech?" "Yes." Another room full of smiling faces. He stood up, straightened his jacket, and nodded. "Let's go." On the way out of the building, something unusual caught his eye. An old woman stood near the entrance, holding a small paper cup. Her hair was gray and messy, her coat too thin for the cold. People walked past her like she didn't exist. Ethan almost did the same. Almost. But something in her eyes stopped him. They were sharp and knowing, like she had seen too much of the world. "Sir," she said as he passed, "you look rich, but you look hungry." Ethan frowned. "Excuse me." "Not hungry for food," she said calmly. "Hungry for something you lost." Claire tried to step in. "Ma'am, please." Ethan raised a hand. "It's fine." He looked at the old woman. "And what do you think I lost?" She smiled sadly. "Your heart." Ethan laughed, but it sounded empty. He reached into his pocket and dropped some cash into her cup. "Have a nice day." The old woman shook her head. "Money won't fix what's coming." Ethan paused. "What's coming?" She leaned closer and lowered her voice. "A child will remind you who you were before the world made you hard." A chill ran down Ethan's spine. Before he could say another word, the old woman turned and slowly walked away, disappearing into the crowd. "Strange," Claire muttered. Ethan didn't answer. The woman's words stayed with him all day. The luncheon went as planned. Applause. Cameras. Smiles. Ethan spoke about hope and the future, but his words felt hollow even to him. That evening, He decided to drive instead of flying to his next meeting. He didn't know why. He just felt restless. That decision led him to the alley, to the trash bin, to the little girl. Now, standing alone in the dark street where she had vanished, Ethan felt his hands trembling. He kept seeing her face, hearing her voice. My story always makes people angry. He looked down at the trash bin. The food lay scattered on the ground, stepped on and ruined. His chest hurt. No child should live like this, he whispered. Back in the car, he couldn't stop thinking. Find her, he told the driver suddenly. Sir, that girl. Find out who she is. Where she came from. Claire looked worried. This could be dangerous. You don't know her situation. I don't care, Ethan said firmly. No child eats from the trash in my city and disappears. The car drove off, but Ethan felt like he had left something important behind. That night he couldn't sleep. The next morning, against everyone's advice, he returned to the same place. The trash bin was empty. The girl was gone. Instead, someone else stood there. The same old woman. She looked up and smiled, as if she had been expecting him. You saw her, didn't you? The old woman said. Ethan's heart raced. You know her. She's closer to you than you think, the woman replied softly. Ethan stepped forward. Please, tell me where she is. The old woman's smile faded. Her eyes filled with warning. If you follow her story, she said, your life will never be the same. Before Ethan could ask another question, a police siren wailed nearby. The old woman grabbed his wrist tightly. They're coming for the child, she whispered urgently. Ethan's blood ran cold. Who is they? He asked. But the old woman let go, turned, and vanished into the crowd, just as officers ran toward the alley. Ethan stood frozen, his heart pounding, realizing one terrifying truth. The little girl was in danger, and he might already be too late. The police sirens grew louder, cutting through the morning air. Ethan's heart slammed against his chest. He stepped back as two police officers ran into the alley, hands resting on their belts. Their eyes moved quickly, scanning the area. Sir, step away from the trash bin, one officer said firmly. Ethan raised his hands. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm looking for a little girl. The officers exchanged a look. What little girl? The second officer asked. A black girl, about 8 years old. Torn dress. One shoe, Ethan said quickly. She was here last night. She was eating from the trash. The first officer sighed. Sir, there are a lot of homeless people in this area. She's a child, Ethan snapped, then softened his voice. Please. She's in danger. The officers hesitated. One of them lowered his voice. We got a call about someone causing trouble around here. An old woman. Ethan's stomach dropped. Where is she? She left before we arrived, the officer said. If you see her again, let us know. Just like that, they turned and walked away. Ethan stood alone, shaking. The old woman's words echoed in his head. They're coming for the child. Who were they? And why would anyone come for a little girl with nothing? He got back into his car, his hands gripping the seat as if it were the only thing holding him together. Start driving, he told the driver. Slowly. They moved through the streets, past broken buildings and crowded sidewalks. Ethan looked out the window, searching every face. Then he saw her. The old woman stood near a bus stop, leaning on a cane. Stop! Ethan shouted. He jumped out of the car and hurried toward her. She watched him calmly, as if she had known he would come. You didn't answer my question, Ethan said, breathing hard. Who's after the girl? The old woman looked around before speaking. People who see children as problems instead of blessings. That doesn't make sense. It will, she replied. If you keep looking. Ethan stepped closer. Please. I can help her. I have money. Power. The woman nodded slowly. That's why this story will hurt you the most. Hurt me how? She tapped her chest gently. Right here. Before Ethan could say more, a bus pulled up between them. When it drove away, the old woman was gone. Again. Ethan clenched his fists. He had never chased anything in his life. Things always came to him. But this was different. Later that day, Ethan canceled his meetings. He shocked everyone in his office. "This is unlike you," Claire said carefully. "You've never canceled a full day before." "There's a child out there who needs help," Ethan replied. "That matters more." Claire studied his face. "This little girl. She changed you." "I think she woke me up," he said quietly. That evening, Ethan did something he hadn't done in years. He walked. No security. No car. Just him moving through the streets as the sun went down. He passed shelters, stores, and parks. He listened. He heard whispers about a child who slept under bridges. A child who refused help. A child who ran whenever adults came close. By nightfall, Ethan felt tired and discouraged. Maybe he was chasing shadows. Then he heard crying. It was soft, almost hidden by the sound of traffic. Ethan followed it, his heart racing. Behind an abandoned building, he saw her again. The little girl sat on the ground, hugging her knees. Her face was streaked with dirt and tears. She rocked back and forth, whispering to herself. Ethan froze. He didn't want to scare her. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not mad." The girl looked up, fear flashing in her eyes. She jumped to her feet, ready to run. "Please," Ethan said quickly. "I brought food." He slowly set a bag on the ground and stepped back. The girl stared at it. Her stomach growled loudly. After a long moment, she crept forward and opened the bag. Inside were sandwiches, fruit, and water. Her hand shook as she took a bite. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered, not looking at him. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She hesitated. "Maya." "Maya," he repeated. "I'm Ethan." She nodded but kept eating. They sat in silence for a while. The city noise faded around them. Finally Ethan spoke. "Last night, you said your story makes people angry." Maya stiffened. She hugged the food closer. "I don't want to tell it," she said quickly. "When I do, bad things happen." Ethan's heart ached. "I promise I won't be angry." She looked up at him, doubt in her eyes. "They always say that." "Who is they?" Ethan asked carefully. Maya's face went pale. She stood up suddenly. "I have to go." "Wait," Ethan said. "You don't have to be alone." She shook her head. "If they see me with you, they'll take me." "Take you where?" Maya's voice dropped to a whisper. "Away." Before Ethan could stop her, footsteps echoed nearby. Voices. Angry voices. Maya's eyes widened in terror. "That's them," she whispered. Ethan turned just as two men appeared from the shadows. They wore dark jackets and hard expressions. "There she is," one of them said. "Told you she'd come back." Maya screamed. Ethan stepped in front of her without thinking. "Stay away from the child," he said firmly. The men laughed. "And who are you supposed to be?" one sneered. Ethan straightened his back, his voice calm but strong. "I'm someone who won't let you touch her." The men stepped closer, their smiles fading. Maya clutched Ethan's coat from behind, shaking. The night air felt heavy, dangerous. And as the men reached for Maya, everything was about to change. The man's hand shot forward. Ethan moved without thinking. He grabbed the man's wrist and shoved it away from Maya. "Don't touch her," he said, his voice shaking but strong. The second man laughed, but there was anger in his eyes. "You're making a mistake, rich boy." Maya cried out and hid behind Ethan, pressing her face into his coat. "Back off," Ethan said. "I've already called the police." That was a lie, but the men didn't know that. Sirens wailed somewhere far away. Not close, but close enough to make the men pause. "Not worth it," the first man muttered. "We'll find her later." He leaned down and hissed at Maya. "You can't hide forever." Then both men turned and disappeared into the dark. Ethan's legs felt weak. He knelt down quickly in front of Maya. "Are you okay?" he asked. Maya nodded, but her whole body was shaking. They always find me, she whispered. No matter where I go. Ethan swallowed hard. Not tonight. He looked around, his heart racing. We can't stay here. Maya hesitated. I can't go with you. I won't force you, Ethan said gently. But you need somewhere safe. Just for tonight. She studied his face, searching for something. Truth. Safety. Kindness. Finally, she nodded once. Ethan led her to his car, moving carefully, watching every shadow. When Maya saw the car, her eyes widened. I've never been in one like this, she said softly. You don't have to touch anything, Ethan said, opening the door. Just sit. She climbed in slowly, as if afraid it might disappear. As the car pulled away, Maya hugged her knees and stared out the window. They drove in silence for a long time. Ethan didn't take her to his mansion. Something told him that would scare her. Instead, he went to a small guest house he owned but rarely used. It was quiet, warm, safe. Inside, Ethan showed her the kitchen and bathroom. You can sleep on the couch, he said. I'll stay in the other room. Maya nodded, still cautious. Ethan placed a blanket over her shoulders. She flinched at first, then relaxed. Thank you, she whispered. That single word felt heavier than any award Ethan had ever received. Later that night, Ethan sat alone, unable to sleep. He kept thinking about the men, about the old woman, about Maya's fear. At dawn, soft footsteps made him look up. Maya stood in the doorway. I had a bad dream, she said quietly. Do you want to talk about it? Ethan asked. She shook her head and sat across from him. For a moment they just listened to the morning sounds. Why do they want you? Ethan asked gently. Maya stared at her hands. Because of my mom. Ethan leaned forward. Tell me what you can. Only what you want. She took a deep breath. My mom's name was Angela. Her voice trembled, but she kept going. She worked in a big house. Cleaned rooms. Cooked food. People were mean to her. They said she should be thankful just to be there. Ethan's chest tightened. She saw something she wasn't supposed to see, Maya continued. Papers. Money. Bad people. What kind of bad people? Ethan asked. Maya shook her head. I don't know. But after that everything changed. She swallowed. Men started coming around, asking questions. My mom told me to run if anyone tried to take me. Ethan's mind raced. What happened to your mom? He asked quietly. Maya's eyes filled with tears. She never came home. Silence filled the room. Ethan felt sick. I'm so sorry. They said she left me, Maya whispered. But she wouldn't do that. She promised. Ethan believed her. She gave me something before she went, Maya said suddenly. What? Ethan asked. Maya hesitated, then reached into her torn dress. She pulled out a small folded paper, worn and dirty. Ethan's breath caught. Maya, this could be important. She nodded. That's why they want me. Ethan didn't touch the paper. You don't have to show me. I want to, she said. I think my mom wanted me to. She unfolded it carefully. Ethan's eyes scanned the page. Names. Numbers. Company logos. One name stood out. Walker Industries. Ethan froze. That's my company, he whispered. Maya looked up confused. Is that bad? Ethan's hands trembled. I don't know. Suddenly a loud knock hit the door. Both of them jumped. Another knock. Harder. Open up, a voice shouted. Ethan stood slowly, his heart pounding. Stay here, he told Maya. He walked toward the door. Before he could reach it, the door handle began to turn. Someone was trying to break in. Ethan looked back at Maya, fear and determination in his eyes. The truth was closer than he ever imagined, and it was coming through the door. The door shook as someone kicked it from the outside. Maya screamed. Ethan spun around. Maya, hide, he shouted. She ran toward the small bedroom and crouched behind the bed, covering her mouth to keep from crying. Her heart beat so loud she was sure everyone could hear it. Another kick hit the door. Open up, a rough voice yelled. We know you're in there. Ethan's mind raced. He grabbed his phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. He didn't speak yet. He waited. He needed proof. He needed help fast. The door cracked. If you are enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more inspiring and emotional stories like this. With Splintered, Ethan stepped back, his body tense, ready to block anyone who came in. Then suddenly sirens. Loud. Close. The men outside cursed. Police! Someone shouted from down the street. Footsteps ran away from the door. Ethan dropped to his knees, breathing hard. He ran to the bedroom and knelt beside Maya. "It's okay," he whispered. "They're gone." Maya burst into tears and wrapped her arms around him. She shook like a leaf. "They found me," she cried. "I told you they always do." Ethan held her carefully like she was made of glass. "Not this time." The police scared them off. The sound of sirens faded, but the fear stayed. A few minutes later, Ethan checked outside. The street was empty. He locked every door and window, then sat with Maya on the couch. He gave her warm milk and wrapped her in another blanket. "You're safe right now," he said softly. Maya nodded, but her eyes stayed wide. "They won't stop." Ethan knew she was right. Later that morning, after Maya finally fell asleep, Ethan sat alone with the folded paper in his hands. Walker Industries. His company. His chest felt tight. "How is this possible?" he whispered. Ethan had built his company from the ground up. Or so he thought. He trusted his top people. He trusted the papers. The numbers. But Maya's mother had seen something. Something dangerous. When Maya woke up, the sun was already high. She blinked and looked around, confused. "You're still here," she said. "I'm not going anywhere," Ethan replied. She studied his face. "Even if my story hurts you?" Ethan nodded. "Especially then." Maya sat up slowly. "The men, they said my mom caused trouble." Ethan leaned forward. "How?" "She found files," Maya said. She didn't understand them, but she knew they were wrong. She wrote some things down. She hid them. Ethan swallowed. "Did she say where?" Maya shook her head. "Just that I should keep the paper safe. And trust someone kind." Ethan looked away. His eyes burned. Kind? Was he really kind? Or just rich? "I want to help you," he said quietly. "But we have to be smart." Maya nodded. "I don't want to go to a home." "No one is sending you anywhere," Ethan said firmly. That afternoon, Ethan made a choice that shocked even himself. He went to his office. With Maya. He didn't put her in fancy clothes. He didn't hide her. He held her hand as they walked through the glass doors. People stared. Whispers followed them. "Who is that child? Is that Ethan Walker?" Ethan ignored them all. In his private office, he locked the door and sat Maya down. "No one comes in unless I say so," he told her. She nodded. Ethan called his head of security, Mark. "I need full background checks," Ethan said. "On everyone. Especially upper management." Mark hesitated. "Sir, that could cause problems." Ethan's voice went cold. "Do it." When the call ended, Maya tugged on his sleeve. "Are you in trouble?" she asked. Ethan forced a smile. "Not yet." Hours passed. Maya colored quietly while Ethan pretended to work. But his eyes kept drifting to her. A child should be laughing, playing, going to school, not hiding from grown men. That evening, Claire knocked softly on the door. "Ethan," she said, her voice tense. "There's someone here to see you." "Who?" Ethan asked. "She says you met her on the street." Ethan's heart skipped. "Let her in." The door opened. The old woman stepped inside. Maya gasped. "It's her." The old woman smiled gently at Maya, then turned to Ethan. "You opened the door," she said. "Now the truth will test you." Ethan stood. "You knew all along." "I knew enough," the woman replied. "That child carries a shadow from your world." Maya clutched Ethan's hand. "Who are you?" Ethan asked. The old woman sighed. "Someone who watches when powerful men stop looking down." She turned to leave. Wait, Ethan said. Tell me what to do. She paused at the door. Protect her. And be ready to lose what you love. The door closed behind her. Maya looked up at Ethan. What did she mean? Before he could answer, Mark called back. Sir, Mark said urgently, you need to see this. Ethan put the call on speaker. We found missing money, Mark continued. A lot of it. Hidden accounts. Fake names. Ethan's stomach dropped. Who's behind it? There was a pause. Then Mark spoke. It leads back to your board. And one name keeps coming up. Ethan held his breath. Richard Hale. Ethan's blood ran cold. Richard Hale was his closest partner. His friend. The office lights flickered. Outside the glass walls, the building went dark. Emergency lights snapped on. Claire's voice echoed from the hallway. Ethan, the power's out. And security says someone is inside the building. Maya screamed and grabbed Ethan's coat. Ethan pulled her close as footsteps echoed closer and closer. Whoever was coming for Maya. The footsteps grew louder. Maya clung to Ethan, her fingers digging into his coat. They found me, she cried. They found me again. Ethan's heart pounded, but he forced himself to stay calm. Look at me, he said softly, kneeling in front of her. I won't let them take you. The office door rattled. Mr. Walker, a voice called from outside. Security check. Ethan didn't answer. He grabbed his phone and texted Mark quickly. Lock the floor. Now. The door handle turned slowly. Ethan stood up and moved in front of Maya, spreading his arms like a shield. The door opened just a little. It was a security guard. Sir, the guard said nervously, we lost camera access. Someone cut the power from the main floor. Ethan's jaw tightened. Did anyone come up here? The guard swallowed. We think so. Ethan shut the door and locked it again. Maya was shaking hard. They'll hurt you because of me. Ethan crouched down and looked straight into her eyes. Listen to me. None of this is your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. But my mom did, Maya whispered. She saw bad things. And she was brave, Ethan said. Just like you. The words seemed to surprise Maya. No one had ever called her brave before. Ethan helped her sit under his desk and covered her with his jacket. Stay quiet, he said. No matter what. She nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. Ethan turned off the lights in the office. Only the soft glow from the hallway slipped in through the glass walls. Then, a shadow moved. Someone was walking past the office. Ethan held his breath. The shadow stopped. A face pressed against the glass. It was Richard Hale. Ethan's blood ran cold. Richard smiled slowly, calmly, like nothing was wrong. He knocked on the glass. Ethan, he called. Open up. We need to talk. Ethan didn't move. Richard's smile faded. Don't make this difficult. Ethan stepped closer to the glass. You're the one stealing from my company. Richard sighed. You always were too trusting. Maya covered her mouth to stop herself from crying. Richard's eyes scanned the room. You have something that belongs to us. There is no us anymore, Ethan said firmly. Richard leaned closer. You think this little girl is innocent? Ethan felt rage rise in his chest. She's a child. She's evidence, Richard snapped. And evidence disappears. Ethan's fists clenched. That won't happen, he said. Richard's voice turned cold. Then you leave me no choice. He stepped back and raised his phone. Suddenly the fire alarm blared. Red lights flashed. Sprinklers exploded from the ceiling. Water poured down everywhere. Maya screamed. Ethan rushed to her, lifting her into his arms as water soaked them both. Come on, he shouted. Smoke filled the hallway, not from fire, but from machines someone had set off. People shouted. Alarms echoed. Chaos spread through the building. Ethan ran. He pushed through the hallway, holding Maya tightly. Water made the floor slippery. Emergency lights flickered. They reached the stairwell. As Ethan pushed the door open, a hand grabbed his shoulder. He spun around. Richard stood there, eyes wild. "Give her to me!" Richard yelled over the alarm. Ethan kicked backward, hitting Richard's knee. Richard stumbled. Ethan ran down the stairs, his legs burning, Maya crying in his arms. They reached the parking garage. Ethan's car was on the far side. Too far. A black van screeched into the garage, blocking the exit. The doors flew open. The same two men from the alley jumped out. Maya screamed louder than ever. "No!" Ethan shouted. The men rushed toward them. Ethan turned and ran between parked cars. His shoes slipped. His chest burned. He felt old and slow. A hand grabbed Maya's leg. She screamed his name. Ethan spun and punched the man with everything he had. The man fell back. Another grabbed Ethan's arm. Suddenly, headlights flashed. A car slammed into the garage, stopping inches away. Police cars. Sirens. The men cursed and ran. Ethan dropped to his knees, holding Maya tightly as police surrounded them. "You're safe," an officer said. Maya sobbed into Ethan's shoulder. Hours later, they sat in a quiet police room. Maya slept curled against Ethan, exhausted. A detective spoke quietly. "Mr. Walker, we arrested Richard Hale. We found evidence. A lot of it." Ethan nodded. "And Maya?" The detective sighed. "She'll have to go into protective care." Maya stirred. "No," she whispered. "Please don't send me away." Ethan's heart broke. "I won't let that happen," he said firmly. The detective hesitated. "This isn't simple." Ethan looked down at Maya. "Nothing about this is simple," he said. Maya opened her eyes. "My mom, is she really gone?" Ethan didn't answer. He didn't know the truth yet, but deep inside he feared the worst. As dawn broke outside the window, Ethan realized one thing clearly. Saving Maya meant risking everything he owned. And the hardest part of her story was still ahead. The sun rose slowly outside the police station, painting the sky soft orange and pink. Ethan hadn't slept. Maya lay curled beside him on the bench, her small hands gripping his sleeve even in sleep, as if afraid he might disappear. Every time she stirred, Ethan's chest tightened. A social worker entered the room quietly. She was kind-looking with gentle eyes. "My name is Mrs. Thompson," she said softly. "I'm here to talk about Maya." Maya's eyes flew open. "No," she said quickly, sitting up. "Please don't take me away." Mrs. Thompson knelt down to Maya's level. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to make sure you're safe." Maya shook her head and pressed closer to Ethan. Ethan took a deep breath. "She stays with me." Mrs. Thompson hesitated. "Mr. Walker, I understand you care. But this is a serious case. Powerful people were involved." Ethan nodded. "I know. That's why she needs protection. Real protection." The detective from the night before stepped forward. "He's right. Richard Hale has started talking. He's blaming others." Ethan felt sick. "And Maya's mother?" The room fell quiet. The detective sighed. "We found records. Angela Lewis reported financial crimes months ago. She went missing the same week." Maya's face went pale. "She didn't leave me," Maya whispered. "I knew it." Ethan wrapped his arm around her. "We are still searching," the detective said carefully. "But the truth is, it doesn't look good." Maya didn't cry. She just went very still. Ethan had never felt pain like that before. Later that day, Maya was allowed to stay with Ethan under emergency protection. Guards were posted. Phones were checked. Every move was watched. At Ethan's home, Maya stood at the gate, staring up at the tall walls. "Am I in trouble?" she asked quietly. "No," Ethan said. "You're safe." Inside, everything was clean and quiet. Too quiet. Maya walked slowly, afraid to touch anything. "This place is too big," she whispered. Ethan knelt beside her. "It doesn't have to feel big. We'll make it feel like home." That night, Maya barely ate. She sat at the table, pushing food around her plate. "Rich food tastes strange," she said. Ethan smiled sadly. "We can eat simple food." He made her a sandwich. She smiled for the first time. Days passed. Richard Hale was charged. More names followed. Walker Industries shook as truth spilled out. Ethan lost money. Friends turned away. His face filled the news, but this time not for success. He didn't care. Every morning Maya sat by the window watching the street. They might come back, she said one day. They won't, Ethan promised. And if they try, they'll answer to me. One afternoon Mrs. Thompson returned. There's something you should know, she said. Ethan's heart raced. About Maya's mother? Mrs. Thompson nodded. A witness came forward. Maya stood up slowly. She's alive, Mrs. Thompson said gently. Weak, hurt, but alive. Maya gasped. Alive. Tears poured down her face as hope rushed back into her eyes. When can I see her? She asked. Soon, Mrs. Thompson replied. But it will take time. That night Maya couldn't sleep. She sat beside Ethan on the couch. Why did you help me? She asked quietly. Ethan thought for a long moment. Because I forgot how to see people, he said. And you reminded me. Maya rested her head on his shoulder. Weeks later, Ethan stood in court, testifying against his own board. His voice didn't shake. I failed to see what was happening, he said. But I won't fail again. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions. Is it true a homeless child exposed everything? Ethan looked straight into the cameras. She wasn't homeless, he said firmly. She was abandoned by a system that failed her. The story spread across the country. People talked about Maya, about Angela, about kindness. One evening, Ethan drove past the same restaurant where it all began. The trash bin was still there. Ethan stopped the car. Maya looked out the window. That's where you found me, she said softly. Yes, Ethan replied. She was quiet for a long moment. I thought no one saw me, she said. But you did. Ethan swallowed. I almost didn't. Maya turned to him. But you did. And that changed everything. As they drove away, Ethan knew his life would never return to what it was. He had lost power, lost money, lost friends. But he had gained something far greater. A heart that finally knew how to feel. And somewhere in a hospital room, a mother was waiting to be reunited with the child the world tried to erase. This time, the truth would not be buried. And neither would Maya's story. If you enjoy this story, subscribe to the channel for more emotional and inspiring stories.